Hi Vinyl community, Mike here, and in this video I want to show you some of the stuff I've been listening to recently, and it's quite a mixed bag. There's punk in here, there's jazz in here, there's all sorts of stuff, and you'll see anyway when I show it to you. So anyway, I'll start off with the jazz stuff, and yeah, this is the first one. This is Fancy Dance, as you can see, by Bobbi Humphrey, and she's a jazz flautist and singer, and this is her album from 1975. I mean, her music is very much in the sort of soul funk jazz fusion category, I think. Very 70s, this record, and it's really nice. It's a really, quite an easy listen, and I really love it. And you've got Fonts and Larry Mizell on here, who sort of write quite a lot of the stuff, and tracks on here. Yeah, You Make Me Feel So Good. Last track on side one is really good. The title track, Fancy Dancer, is excellent. And then there's Sweeter Than Sugar, which I think is my favourite track on this album. So I've not listened to this for an awfully long time, and I really enjoyed it, and it's the only thing I have by Bobbi Humphrey, so maybe I should go and get some more. Now, also playing on this album is a jazz harpist called Dorothy Ashby, and I didn't realise that she was actually on this album. And when I did, I thought, yeah, I'll get an album by her and play it. And this is another jazz album, but again, it's not your bog standard jazz. It's full of sort of Middle Eastern and Oriental sort of rhythms, and it's this one, and it's from 1970, and as you can see, it's the Rubaiyat of Dorothy Ashby, and it's her compositions that are inspired by the writings of Omar Khayyam. So, there's the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, so this is the Rubaiyat of Dorothy Ashby. And you can see that, I said she's a harpist, but on this album, as well as playing the harp, she also plays this instrument, and it's a traditional Japanese instrument, and I think it's the national instrument of Japan, but I could be wrong. And it's got a koto, and it's it's in the sort of zither family, I suppose, but it sounds very much sort of like a harp, but not quite. It has that very very sort of Oriental sort of feel to it, and she makes quite a lot of this on the album. And I suppose the tracks that show off the her playing of the koto best are the second track on side one, which is called For Some We Loved, which is an excellent track. And my favourite track on the album, which is on side two, and it's their second track on side two, and it's called Joyful Grass and Grape. And absolutely superb. And again, I'd not listened to this for quite some time, and it's not your usual sort of jazz, really. It's got all these other sort of as I say, Middle Eastern and Far Eastern influences mixed in there, and it makes an absolutely lovely sound. It's a great album to chill out to, I think. So that's the second one. So that's the jazz out of the way. I know some of you are a bit sniffy about that, aren't you? You don't really go for it. I mean, I'm not a big jazz fan, but I like some of the stuff. Anyway, so let's get to a bit of post punk, and it's again, band from Birmingham. It's the Au Pairs. It's a debut album, and it's called Playing with a Different Sex, as you can see. And this is one of my favourite post-punk albums. Definitely my favourite album by the Au Pairs. It was released in 1981. So as I say, they're from Birmingham, and tracks on here. We've got Come Again, which you can probably imagine what it's actually about, but I won't tell you. You just have to use your imagination. Unfinished Business is really good. It's Obvious, I think, is probably the most famous track on here. It was definitely a single. Possibly the opening track on side one, We're So Cool. That's that was another one. And there's a song on here, a cover of a David Bowie song, and I'm always quite surprised that David Bowie actually wrote this. It's a song called Repetition, and it's about domestic violence basically, and it doesn't seem like a very sort of Bowie-esque sort of song at all, but it's an absolutely fantastic track, and I would recommend this. The cover photograph is by the photojournalist Eve Arnold, and this is I think it's a female militia in Mongolia. So there you go. So that's the au pairs and playing with the different sex. Right, now the best punk band ever, the best punk band in Australia, if not the world, and this is the Saints, and this is their final album, and so basically it was recorded in 2018, and that's shortly before Chris Bailey died, and it wasn't actually finished until about 2022, I think. It was the album's finished. It was released in 2025, and it's called the Long March Through the Jazz Age, and it's a lovely album. Now, if you're expecting Saints in their pomp, 1976 to about 1978, real proper punk rock, you'd be disappointed. This isn't a punk album at all, but it's really, really nice. It's I don't know, just indie rock, I suppose, and Empire Sometimes We Fall. The first track on side one is absolutely superb. I love Resurrection Day. I think that's good. And there's Carnivore, which I suppose is the title track, because it's Carnivore, and then in brackets it says Long March Through the Jazz Age. And as I say, this is a swan song of Chris Bailey, who's the singer with the Saints, and it's well worth picking up. Although, as I say, it's not anywhere near early Saints, and it's definitely not a proper sort of punk rock album, but superb nevertheless. Right, so after the punk, how about a bit of classic sort of Canterbury prog, and one of my favourite English prog albums of all time, and this is Caravan, in the Land of Grey and Pink. This is their masterpiece. This is the album that they'll be remembered for. So there's the lovely illustration there. You can see it's a reissue from a few years back. I do have an original, but it's in the right state. So I treated myself to this. So yeah, I mean the tracks on here. I mean, you've got 9 Feet Underground, which takes up the whole of the second side of the album. It's absolutely superb. It's one of my favourites of all time. And there's the side one opens up with the very sort of whimsical golf girl, where he's admiring a young lady on a golf course basically, and she's serving cups of tea to people, and he hangs around and buys some tea and hopes that he can sort of hook up with her. So there you go. Winter Wine, and then Love to Love You, which is not my favourite track really on this album, I suppose. And then you've got the title track, In the Land of Grey and Pink, and love this album. So I've been listening to it recently. So there you go. Right, next up is something that I bought only very recently, and it's an EP, and it's Irish folk music, or an Irish folk singer, I should say. It's Lisa O'Neill, and as you can see, it's called "The Wind Doesn't Blow This Far Right." So you've got the title track, then you've got Mother Jones, and then her version of All the Tired Horses, which is absolutely superb. And then there's Homeless in Their Thousands, and Pete Doherty guests on that track, surprisingly. Then you got the Bleak Midwinter, the traditional song, which she sings really, really well. And then Autumn 1915, which will be about the uprising. So there you go. So that's I was really pleased to get this, Lisa O'Neill, and The Wind Doesn't Blow This Far Right. And another album that was released only a couple of weeks ago, and I was really pleased to see these guys had actually released a new record. It's been about 4 or 5 years since their last one, and it's the great and very weird Ogledd, and this album, as you can see, is called Discombobulated, which is one of my favourite words in the English language. And as I say, they're very weird. If you want to know what they kind of look like, if you've seen the photograph on the back of the album, the Hangman's Beautiful Daughter by the Incredible String Band, then they look a bit like that. And so the most famous person in the band, I think, is it's going to be Richard Dawson. But the other members are Sally Pilkington, Dawn Bothwell, and Rodri Davis. And they're kind of experimental psyche folk prog, I suppose. And yeah, I just absolutely love these guys. And Hen Ogledd actually means it's in Welsh. It's the Old North, and the Old North was in the very early Middle Ages. It was the part of Britain that wasn't Anglo-Saxon, basically, and it stretched from sort of the Scottish borders all the way down through the sort of north of England into Wales, and then the southwest of England. And in this part of the world, the part of Hen Ogledd, which was a sort of collection of Brittonic kingdoms, the kingdom around this part of the world in Yorkshire and Leeds is or was called Elmet. And there's still actually sort of villages around Leeds that have the name Elmet. You've got Sherburn in Elmet, and some others. I can't think of the others. There's quite a few of them anyway. But that's it. So the Old North and a bit of psyche sort of prog, folk music. So Scales Will Fall. I think they've released it as a single. It's really, really good. Clara, I really like. And then the final track on the album is also very good, called Land of the Dead, I think. Yeah, Land of the Dead. And yeah, this is a really, really nice album. As I say, it's the first one they've released for about 4 or 5 years. Their other album, Mogic, is really good as well. That's probably my favourite of theirs. So, right, back to some of the sort of more classic stuff. An album from 1978, and one of my favourite artists from the era, and that's Elvis Costello. And as you can see, it's this year's model, and I really love that picture of him. I think it's really great. And there you go. There's the back cover. I'm sure you all know the album. I'll show you the inner. There's just a couple of sort of weird photographs on there. There you go. And You know, for those of you that like that sort of thing, I'll show you the label because it's a brilliant Radar Records label that released quite a lot of really decent punk and post-punk around the late 70s and the early 80s. So, you know, stuff on here. I Don't Want to Go to Chelsea is on this album. What else? Pump It Up, I think. Yeah, Pump It Up is on here. And then Hand in Hand, which is a real favourite of mine. So yeah, I really enjoyed listening to that. I think this is probably my favourite Elvis Costello album, and that's this year's model from 1978. Right, an album from 1982, and this is a band that took me a little while to sort of get into. I mean, at the time, in the early 80s, I wasn't really into them at all, and it probably wasn't for sort of 4 or 5 years I thought, hang on, these guys are really quite good. And it's the Cocteau Twins, and this is their album. I think it's their debut, Garlands. And yeah, I mean, Elizabeth Fraser's vocals are really great on, you know, on all the albums, and you can really hear that she was a big fan of Susie Sue. There's certainly, you know, her singing style is comparable to that, but it's kind of gothy, ethereal post-punk, I suppose, and you know, I think they're great. Again, it's sort of music you can get lost in, I think, and that's it. That's Garlands on the 4AD label by the Cocteau Twins. Right. What else have we got? Oh yes, just a couple more to go, and this is a bit of folk, and this is a debut album by a band that have become a sort of cult favourite amongst you know, lovers of English folk rock, and it's a band Trees, and their most famous album, the second album, On the Shore, is the one that everybody raves about. To get originals of these albums nowadays, it costs sort of hundreds, but as you can see, this album is called The Garden of Jane Delaunay, and yeah, it's really nice sort of folk rock. It's kind of comparable to Fairport Convention, I suppose. So their second album, On the Shore, is a lot more sort of a lot more psyche, a lot more sort of out there. This is this is much more sort of, you know, straightforward English folk rock, and you know, so I compare them with Fairport Convention, and there's a track on here called Lady Margaret, and that track, Lady Margaret, when Fairport Convention did, they called it Matty Groves. So it's Matty Groves, basically. It's the same song. And the title track, The Garden of Jane Delaunay, was actually covered by Francois Hardy, and also somebody else, and I wrote it down. Oh yes, All About Eve covered it as well. And as I say, you know, this is a band that have, you know, obtained quite a sort of cult status. I think at the time they were very much sort of overlooked, but you know, there's the two albums, and you know, both of them are absolutely brilliant. This one and On the Shore. So yeah. So that's it. That's Trees and The Garden of Jane Delaunay. And the final one. And this is an album, I'd never seen this album before, and I picked it up very cheaply at the last record fair I was at, and it's from 1978, and it's by Annie Haslam, and as you can see, it's called Annie in Wonderland, and I'll show you the full the full gatefold there. Illustrations, and then in the middle you've got pictures of Annie and you know, various collaborators there, and of course, you know, this guy here, Roy Wood. quite surprisingly. I should say Annie Haslam, of course, is most famous for being the singer in Renaissance. So I think after Renaissance's first album, she took over and she was the singer in that band. And they're one of my favourite sort of folky prog bands. So yeah, as I say, it features Roy Wood, and you can really hear some of the saxophone on this is very reminiscent of the Move or Wizard. Very very sort of Roy Wood, if you know what I mean. And yeah, it's quite a decent album, and there's a really nice version of Going Home, which is it was the Hovis advert for those of you in the UK that it was when the lad pushing the bike up the steep hill, and the music to that was Going Home by Dvorak from his New World Symphony, and she does a really good job with it, and I like this album. It's not her best album by any means, but it's definitely worth a listen, and it's Annie in Wonderland that I picked up for next to nothing. So I was really pleased with that. So that's what I've been listening to recently, about 10 albums I think there. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, leave me a comment or whatever, and I'll see you again when I've listened to some more records. So until then, bye-bye. Bye.